What if Earth had rings like Saturn? First of all, Earth would instantly become the coolest looking planet in the solar system. Sorry, Jupiter, your great red spot would look like a mosquito bite compared to our shiny new rings. From the ground, people everywhere would be able to look up at the sky and see giant glowing arcs spanning across the heavens. Sunrise selfies would never be the same again. Instagram would collapse under the sheer volume of ring pictures. But how would such rings even form? Saturn's rings are made of billions of icy particles, ranging from tiny dust grains to chunks the size of houses. They probably formed when a moon or a comet got too close to Saturn and was ripped apart by tidal forces. So for Earth to get rings, something similar would have to happen. Either the moon would get shredded into pieces, or a giant icy object would smash into Earth's orbit. That's already bad news, because if the moon is gone, we lose the tides, and surfers everywhere would riot. Also, the moon stabilizes Earth's tilt, so without it, our planet's climate could swing wildly, turning Miami into an ice rink and Siberia into a tropical resort. But okay, let's imagine we somehow keep the moon and just get extra rings. What would life under the rings look like? For starters, not everyone would get the same view. The rings would mostly be seen from the equator, where they'd stretch directly overhead like a glowing cosmic highway. People living closer to the poles would just see thin stripes near the horizon, and Canadians would be deeply offended by their lack of spectacular views. The rings would also affect sunlight. They would cast huge shadows across Earth, dimming daylight in some regions. Imagine living in a city where every afternoon a giant striped shadow passes overhead like a celestial eclipse. Great for photographers, terrible for anyone relying on solar power. Crops might fail, plants could struggle, and farmers would be forced to explain to their cows why the sun keeps disappearing behind cosmic debris. And the night sky? Completely transformed. Instead of the Milky Way, stargazers would have glowing arcs dominating the darkness. Ancient civilizations would have lost their minds. The Egyptians would build pyramids in the shape of the rings. The Romans would probably try to conquer them. And medieval Europe? They would most definitely have burned a few unlucky astronomers at the stake for even suggesting the sky was filled with floating ice chunks. But beyond the aesthetics and drama, there would be serious physics to deal with. Rings are not stable forever. Over time, Earth's gravity, along with the pull of the moon, would cause the ring particles to clump together or fall back down to the surface. Translation: random showers of space boulders. One day you're sipping coffee on your balcony. The next day a 20-ton chunk of X-moon crashes into your backyard. Insurance companies would absolutely refuse to cover ring debris damage. And what about space travel? Low Earth orbit would become a cosmic demolition derby. Satellites trying to get through the ring system would be shredded to bits in seconds. The International Space Station, gone. Starlink Internet? Forget it. Elon Musk would be forced to go back to selling flamethrowers. There's also the question of how bright the rings would be. Saturn's rings are incredibly reflective, shining almost as bright as snow. Earth's rings would light up the night sky so much that night might not really exist anymore. Forget about seeing the stars. Astronomers would riot. Entire generations of poets would complain about the loss of romantic moonlight walks because now the rings would hog all the attention. And of course, we can't ignore the climate consequences. Those shadows from the rings would cool some regions and leave others unchanged, creating bizarre new weather patterns. Some areas might experience permanent ring shadow winters, while others roast under normal sunlight. Climate scientists would develop migraines trying to model it, and politicians would still manage to argue about whether the rings are even real. So, could Earth actually sustain Saturn-like rings? Not for long. Earth is too small, too close to the sun, and too dynamic to keep rings stable over millions of years. Solar radiation, atmospheric drag, and the moon's gravity would gradually tear them apart. In the end, our majestic rings would rain down on Earth in a fiery cascade, wiping out anything unlucky enough to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Which means the final answer is, if Earth had rings like Saturn, it would be beautiful, terrifying, and short-lived. Humanity would get amazing photos, dramatic weather, and catastrophic insurance bills. And then, eventually, Earth would go back to being just a regular old blue marble. But hey, at least for a while, we'd finally be the most photogenic planet in the neighborhood.